do we have changes to the agenda? Because I see we have the, we should add the audit discussion.
Oh, that would be the only one on my radar.
You know, because, you know,
There had originally been, UJFD had originally been on, to make an ask.
I thought
for-
so, yeah.
And they had a conflict. It was cutting it too close for a training exercise that
Yeah.
Matt Champlin needed to be part of, so they'll be joining on the 2nd.
Okay. All right, so,
What's the audit thing?
well, actually, we have to, you know, talk, he comes and talks about, you know, how good we're doing, or if there's any problems.
Oh,
Well,
yeah, not me.
not you,
Oh, no,
No,
that's,
no.
but we have the audit, you know, we have to at least mention it, maybe another, because
Careful, you'd be roped into a committee if you. That doesn't matter.
that was a terrible assumption on my part, that I'm sorry, because I saw the audit and I saw a different person here and went, uh-oh.
oh, no.
This is the new principal of, hi, Todd Rowling, nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Madam Chair of our select board.
And who's the new principal of what?
Oh,
Yeah.
the elementary school.
Oh, the elementary school. Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
That's cool. Oh, so you're here to have the snow piled up.
So he's.
Well,
That's
Still lack of snow. Yeah, you tell me when it's my turn. I'll chat about it. Yeah.
Okay, well, then we'll have to talk. We can mention this in other business, but we, if we can get. Typically, we have somebody from the firm come and chat with us about it, and then we have to accept the audit.
Right.
So that's an action item.
I have to say, I've been deferring to Brian. He's made mention of having someone come in and do that, and haven't heard anything. by
Yeah,
way of
all right, because
follow-up,
that's,
so,
because you have, the select board has to at least accept the audit.
okay.
And so it's an
Right.
action item. That's why I thought it was you and I thought, oh, okay.
It's worth noting though, upon receipt of this, and I mean, I don't have a financial background, but the only advisory we've received from the last couple of years at the conclusion of the audit, we have taken action to address. So I'm assuming that when they do get to report to us, hopefully with Brian's participation or at
Yeah.
least approval, we're not going to find any material
Right,
corrections that need to be made.
right.
But having said that, yeah, well,
This-
if they could just walk us through it, if they have the time.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
I can try to get that on here.
because I did talk to, what was it? Mike is his name? Mike Segali?
Yeah,
And, you know, we had a nice chat and things look good, but, you know, it's good to have it for the public as well.
Yes,
So anyway, you're first then.
All right. You want me to come up to the table there?
Yeah,
Sure.
please.
All right. Well, hi, I'm Todd Rowling, so I'm new principal at JES. I don't have like a firm proposal. I wanted to come in with a couple things, but mostly to introduce myself. I've been the principal up in Coventry for the past few years.
Oh,
And then, but I was a teacher in Enosburg and a teacher in Winooski, and so. Yeah,
you
I've
traveled
been,
the state then.
I have the northern part, yeah, and I lived in Underhill for 10 years, now live up in Jeff, so it's nice to be back in an area that I know pretty well. Yeah, and so I one of the things was I worked with the town in Coventry occasionally, with their select board and with the road crew and whatnot for some different pieces, parts, at that school. And it was great. And so I didn't know if that relationship, you know, existed much here, between the school and the town, but, you know, wanted to try and open the door between us and see, you know, how we can work together a little more. I know, like in Coventry, when we used to have snow, the road crew used their bucket loader to make us a bunch of piles we did a snow sculpting contest with the kids. And so the town just came in and made piles for each, you know, class to do their own sculpture with, which was great. Obviously we're not going to do that anytime soon here. But one of the things, like, this is an example of it. One of the things, I'm talking with a committee at the school about our playground and what we want to do there. One of them was just if we just had some natural features, like just a pile here, or, a couple of rows of dirt, something for kids to run on, or even just, 6 feet or 5 feet to sled down.
Berms or
Nothing-
something.
Exactly, that they're not just playing on the playground structure, there's some features. I can go out, and price somebody coming in with that and doing all that, and it's not gonna happen for a few years. But if the town was like, we got some extra fill and we got a bucket loader, we could do that in an afternoon, then we can actually make it happen. And so, just putting it out there, no pressure on anything, but that sort of thing. And then if we can, it's K4, so maybe, learning a little bit about the history of the town would be fantastic in my vision. Learning about the government maybe is not quite their wheelhouse, but maybe. But yeah, so that sort of stuff. I'm a big fan of trying to bring the community into the school and trying to get the kids out into the community. And now that with COVID a little, less, we could do that again. So yeah, just looking at that sort of stuff.
Now, how clean does the fill have to be if you're gonna do something like that?
As long as we could cover the end result, so it could be grass at the, at the end, the inside, if we did one, pile 5 or 6 feet high, or if we did 2 sort of berms that then they sort of rollers that they're playing on, I think kids would love that. The inside, I don't care what's in there. We get, the landfill.
Barbed wire, rebar.
We get landfill and then just cover it up, but no,
No, because, I was saying, because sometimes, when they have to dig ditches and stuff, you have to move the dirt somewhere, but, mostly it's, sand and gravel and stuff.
yeah,
Clean fill.
Clean fill, yeah.
yeah, but no,
But
this,
it's not, it's not stuff shuffled to it's all, uniform or anything like that. It's
No.
just- Yeah.
yeah, no, as long as you can, it would hold its form, and then we cover it with, a layer of dirt and grass seed, that would be fantastic for me. I don't, again, that's just one, one idea, but yeah, just trying to see. I don't know if you all have thoughts too on what you'd like to see from the school.
Well, I'd say for a couple of points you raised. One is about the history. The town of Jericho has a 3rd volume of history, which is all recent history. That would be the stuff people would be most interested. The other 2 volumes are just drier than toast. But if you're thinking of what I'm trying to read, what you were talking about, that maybe the kids could discover. A couple of years ago, there was an exhibit in here. I don't know if you were involved.
Yeah.
Had something to do with architectural styles of
Yeah.
well-known buildings in Jericho or something like that.
Right.
It was styrofoam.
Yeah.
Anyway, that 3rd volume you'll want to get a hold of. Maybe there's one in the library.
Okay.
That would be where you get ideas for the kids.
Based on that.
Yeah.
As far as the plowing, what I heard you say now was maybe creating berms. I don't know how much snow. Hopefully, we're gonna get a couple dumps. of
Not with
snow.
snow, this would be for, like, there, I was talking dirt, fill, like to change the actual layout of the playground so that there's some features that are there year round to play on.
But then you were also talking about like in the wintertime when there's snow to make a.
Yeah,
Right?
that, we've asked our plow guy to go through, I don't know if you know the back, but
Yeah,
you go through
goes
the fence
almost
and
to Sunny.
plow it onto the field there, but oftentimes they're in such a hurry, it just gets piled up at the end of the parking lot. Kids want to play on it there, that's less than ideal. But yeah, so just trying to look at that. Again, not really an issue this winter, but yeah.
I would say about the berms, you might want to think a little bit more about that and, maybe specific locations and
Mhm.
submit something that, we're thinking of 2 berms, this one here and this one here, and they'd be 5 feet high or, just so we had a sense of how
Absolutely.
much fill might be involved, and then we could at least address it. I know we recently received a request from Browns River Middle School. So maybe, if you formalize this just
You
a
got
little bit, so there'd be.
Yeah, no, I
details.
I
As
just
far
wanted to
as,
see if
as-
there was an interest.
as far as, after the snowstorm, having the town highway come in, I'm a little reluctant to oblige the crew to be doing that without going by them. So, that's something maybe we can have an informal conversation
Yeah,
about at some
right.
point.
But the summer stuff, clearly we have time to do that.
And that playground, having been on that playground like Eric for 40 years, That is flatter than a ping pong table.
Flattest spot in Jericho.
So if you put a
To the
couple of
point
berms
that we've
there,
got a lake there right now.
it would be huge.
Yeah.
That'd be
That's
great.
true. I mean,
So, I
especially if you have those two, because then the kids, I mean, there's a lot of fun rolling down and rolling up.
Oh, yeah.
What's
Yeah,
really
no, I
nice
think we
about
do.
that playground
Yeah.
is the peepers.
Do we get peepers in the spring?
You know where that boardwalky thing is?
Yeah, oh, yeah, I love it.
Oh, my God, it's just, people actually walk up to that back of that field because it is so beautiful. That, I mean, that's the sign of spring. And there's a lot of people.
That boardwalk is such a wonderful
The
asset.
town.
Yeah.
We're slowly replacing the boards on the boardwalk, because it's just a great thing. We're adding some more railings. But yeah, it's a slow process, just to let you know, but we'll get there. But what a great thing to have that trail around the school. Love it.
And just as a reminder, maybe this has been called to your attention, but those two egresses at the back of the playground, one goes over to Griswold.
Yeah.
One goes to Sunnyview. Those are rights of way. Those are public rights of way.
Oh, okay. good.
They are not favors being done by neighbors.
That's one of them.
I just
That's
wanna
not what
make
I've
it
heard.
really
So that's
black and
great
white.
to know. Okay,
So anyway,
okay.
And that's-
Both of them are public rights of way.
both of them are public rights of way.
Fantastic. That's great to know. All right.
So just to get back to the snow and dirt question, I took the liberty of reaching out to Adam because I knew he wouldn't want to be here to chime in, but I ran by kind of gave him the scenario. He said two things. He would, after a storm, if there was a want to make big piles of snow, probably would be like the day after or even the day after that. But he would like to help.
Oh, great.
In regard to, use of machinery and people power. He said, the machines are the select boards. If they want to allocate and deploy the resource, then I'm, more than willing to help out. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I
There
know I
was
spent
a-
a lot of time playing King of the Hill and there must have been some sort of piles there when I went there, so.
There's one over behind the baseball field closest to the diamond, closest to the playground. We've got 2 or 3 diamonds and it's sort of behind one of the dugouts there. So it's not a great spot for our kids to play on recess because we usually only have 2 people on recess duty and then you can't really see
Can't supervise.
around.
Yeah.
So, but they do love it over there because it's a feature. And so, yeah, that's where the talk, came from, trying to do it. I do have a meeting on Monday with some staff folks and then some folks from our parent organization, Partners in Education, on Monday to chat about, sort of holistically, what do we want to do with the playground? And then we could come back, in a few weeks or whatever for, with something more formal. I just wanted to get a chance to see.
Like
And
contributions in kind kind of thing.
yeah.
That sounds great. Thank
Really
you.
does. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
and reach out anytime if there's anything, questions for the school or for me or anything I can help with, definitely. Don't hesitate.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you all.
Okay.
See you, Neil.
We have 2 of his cards.
Oh. Sorry. I just stuffed it in there.
That's okay.
And I'll let you
Glad
guys
you noticed it.
Safe travels, Todd.
Yeah, especially since, they're talking like up to 1/4 inch of ice overnight or something like that. Terrible weather.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a poorly timed ask, seeing that feels like the end of March in the middle of February, right? now.
Absolutely,
I know.
I
absolutely.
think more,
I got my trees tapped.
I know,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen.
way
that-
behind.
I get somebody in Bristol that was tapping the other night.
And I saw buckets, up someplace up on Lee River or something, up at different other places, so. Yeah.
I happen to, now this is bad confession. A Hallmark movie happened to be on in the house, which are usually shot in British Columbia. It was supposed to take place in Vermont. And they were going through this pine grove that they were pretending was a maple, a sugar bush.
Oh, my
It
gosh.
was just kind of pathetic,
That's very
come on.
pathetic.
Those are evergreen trees and you got these buckets hanging out the side of them.
Wow.
Anyway,
Yeah,
My favorite
anyway,
is
that's,
the buckets hanging off like the
Yeah.
phone poles.
right.
but Wednesday, we almost finished Wednesday, so,
Yeah,
but there are points of view that look like Church Street, and things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, that is really.
Yeah.
pretty funny.
I got a call from a reporter at the St. Albans Messenger last Friday. Asking what, if anything, we knew about the Jericho connection on Wednesday. And I didn't really have much for him, but he's on the case.
We are willing to take donations from Netflix for its success.
Wouldn't that be good?
Oh, that'd be really great. Well, the timing was very good, Chuck. Nice to see you. And, you know, it's time for you to come to the table. And although we all know you and, you know, appreciate your passion for this, I have to do the, you know, the rote that I do for everybody, you know, ask you to state your name and why you're interested in the Affordable Housing Committee and what you feel like you could bring to the committee.
Sure, Chuck Lacy, Jericho Center. I live in maybe the rental district of Jericho. Just next to me is a 5-plex. There's a young couple that lives in one bedroom apartment, 1,300 square feet. No, excuse me, $1,300 a month. The apartment is about the size of my kitchen.
Oh, my.
And he is an accomplished carpenter. Both, I don't know, I'm guessing around 30. His dream is to get a small piece of land and build a duplex, use one half of a duplex to help pay the rent. Kind of a classic story, classic rural story. And that's impossible in Jericho. And it's been made impossible over a 50-year strategy of exclusion. And I think that's has come to damage the town tremendously, that attitude about keeping people out. And I think I'm pretty eager to see our town shift that. I mean, the original plan was designed to increase property values and keep people out. The minutes are all pretty explicit, and the basic strategy, which was established in the early 70s, was to reserve most of the town for people with enough money to buy 10 acres and to put the little people in the village centers. And they recognized they needed water and sewer then. It's been 50 years and there's been basically no progress. And I think that fundamental deal is broken. And I think it's a condescension to continue with that basic concept. And I think that the town either needs to, the town needs to recognize that. I think the town, we also need to stop looking at Richmond or St. Albans or Heinsberg and say we want to do what they do, because we don't have the capacity to do that. We have decided that we don't do projects like that because we don't have the capacity to do that. So we have to look at what we're able to do and work with what we've got to make it possible for young people, older people, single people to live in Jericho. The most recent statistics on the percentage of children in free and reduced lunch for each school in the state just came out. There are some schools that didn't submit data, maybe 5 or 10%. Jericho had the lowest rate of free and reduced lunch attendance of any school in Vermont that was listed. That's intentional. It was an intentional effort over 50 years. And I think we need to, we just need to make a fundamental change. And in my view, I don't think we're looking at sort of incremental change. There's been a lot of new housing in Essex, nothing in Jericho and Underhill, and a lot of new housing in Cambridge and Fairfax. And that is just simply unfair to the larger population. In my view, we simply don't have the right to restrict people's aspirations in that way. Population in our elementary schools is down 40% in Underhill and Jericho. And it's hard to divide Jericho and Underhill, kind of the way it goes, but Jericho and Underhill together, we're down 40%. That's more than double.
Down from when?
20 years.
So 20 years ago, they were 40% more.
I think it's not how percentages work.
Well,
but yeah.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, we're down 40% since then. That's more than double the decline in public students in Vermont as a whole. And it's absurd that it's happening in Chittenden County. I think we need to relook where we are relative to the state of Vermont. We are in the town center for Vermont. Jericho is in the town center of Vermont, and we need to look at it that way. I'm, pretty comfortable with the zoning regulations. I recently, in the last 3 years, have developed with a partner 22 units of housing in Springfield, built new units, renovated other units, 22 units, all less than $900 a month rent, including utilities. Building, renovating properties in Chester, Pennsylvania, which is a low-income community down there, adding residential and and commercial housing there. So I have some familiarity with that. I'm kind of have been I've been in an advocacy role, I think, for the last 5 or 6 years, and I feel like in the last year. And the first thing any select board ever did to make it easier for people to live in Jericho was the fairly minor changes in the zoning that you passed a year ago. And I feel like we're starting to make a little progress. I'm very comfortable with the leadership on the planning commission. There's some very strong members in the planning commission. I'm very comfortable with the leadership in the affordable housing committee. And I'm ready to, in addition to being an advocate, to work on getting under the hood and figuring stuff out. My view of the Affordable Housing Committee is that it is an advocacy group, and its job, I believe, is to challenge both the select board and the planning commission to do more in this arena and to offer suggestions on how how it might be done. Ultimately, all this flows, all the leadership really needs to come from the select board. And quite frankly, I don't think it has in the past. I think this is a case needs to be made to the public. I think the Affordable Housing Committee's role is to be an advocate, but also give you the tools so you can help make that case. I asked John for the for the resolution, which makes clear that the Affordable Housing Committee is reporting to you, which I think is appropriate, and that its work should go to both you and the Planning Commission. You've asked for advocacy work, and I think the Affordable Housing Committee can either prove that it's another committee that goes nowhere, or it can spur some action.
We've also asked the Affordable Housing Committee to be provide education to the public, with little things about what we mean by affordable housing. What's the definition? What we, so that people do understand what we're talking about, and not get worried that, that all of a sudden they don't want it in their own backyard.
Well, they don't want it in their backyard. They've proven that. And that's where the leadership on the part of the select board needs to come, that people, and quite frankly, your approach, Catherine, on the ADUs was really reinforcing, allowed people to it was like reinforcing people's fear of having people renting around, and they're just going to have to get used to that.
What are you referring to?
Pardon?
What specifically are you referring to?
Yeah.
I'm referring to your passing regulations that required that they be owner occupied in all cases.
The state is still, that comes from the state.
No, the state never required that.
Based on what we're hearing.
No,
right?
no,
The
the
fact
state-
that they're arguing over that in the the House bill right now, whether to allow ADUs without having an owner occupied
No.
space.
What they're arguing over is what is the minimum requirement, not the maximum requirement. They're arguing over what are we going to require the towns to do. And Jericho can do more than that, and did actually a year ago, finally. And we've had this debate repeatedly, Catherine. The state is talking about what the minimum is, not holding the town back on ADUs. It is establishing minimum requirements. And that's always been the case from day one on that law.
I think you make a good point, though, before that the time for incremental change or just the status quo is past, and it hasn't served us well, sort of this incremental approach. My sense is that there has been a sea change among the 60 or so Jericho people who are involved in some kind of public committee, whether it's select board,
Right.
housing, whatever, that there is a sense that we've got to get a fork stuck in our rear about some of this stuff. But to Catherine's point, I think once we go out to the public for the next iteration of zoning regulations, changes or whatever, or two changes out, we're going to have to expect pushback. And that takes leadership by the select board, as well as you said, education.
Education. I mean, because you're talking about wanting houses that are for work.
Because I've carefully listened to people who have heard that there's some interest in affordable housing opportunities in town. And just by the language they use, they're going to a corner that I don't want them to go to, have just a certain couple words.
Mhm.
There's alarm in the word that they use, or it's there's just a little bit of a pejorative sense to the word. And I just know that we're going to face that.
There is still a desire to control who lives where, and that is embedded in the language around this. I mean, when we look at some of the great families in Jericho that we know and love, many of them are people who came here with almost nothing, got a piece of land, built a small house, added on to it, the arc of their life, their full arc of their life, and their origination story coming to Jericho, and the arc of their life, raising children, participating in civic life at periodic times over their life. That to me is more about the character of the town than what it looks like. And we've been stuck on what it looks like. And we have cut off the opportunity for young people to have that arc of life within, fully within Jericho, and to participate in civic life, through the whole course. And that's the case. That's the case that we need to make, and it is going to require leadership, and it's not going to be, it's not fair.
No.
It's simply not fair for us to be incremental. And if we position affordable housing as something where we're going to decide people are going to live in groups, and we're going to decide where they live, as opposed to really saying, hey, we're all going to have neighbors. Jericho is like, we've all had the experience of getting on a rail car, on a train, and you've got every aisle seat occupied with people pretending to be asleep. Okay, that's Jericho. Okay. And we have to, everybody's going to have to move over a little bit. We just have to move over.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
And
Well, thank you for your interest.
Thank you for your interest. So, you have other questions?
No, because we know where Chuck's coming from, what he's
Yeah,
going to add to the
passion.
committee, and
The passion he has, absolutely.
well, and the expertise, it sounds like a little bit from Chester, and
Yeah.
I didn't know down in Springford, Vermont, you were working on
Mhm.
projects. Those could be really useful.
I guess my question is, I don't disagree with anything you say. But your point that you're making is that the residents don't all support this. We are only here because of the residents that elected us. So how do we? I guess education is the only answer to it, but how do you, how do you respond to that? Like, oh, well, I don't like your opinions. You're wrong because you don't want people to come in. I don't think they're right, but they did vote us in here. So part of me is like, we absolutely need this.
Right.
Understand all the reasons we need it. It's moral, it's economical, we're gonna
And it's
miss out on lots and lots and lots. of
I
things.
voted for you because you said you were committed to this.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But I also said when I ran that I'm gonna listen to the townspeople. So I guess I just have this weird thing, right? With like most of the townspeople is saying, no, I don't agree with this.
But most of them do want affordable housing based on our surveys. So
Sure.
we have
Oh,
to
yeah.
get them.
Overwhelming.
When zoning started in Jericho, the hotels in Burlington were still segregated. Okay. When the Chamber of Commerce surveyed the hotels in the year Jericho implemented zoning, the preponderance of them said, no, we don't accept blacks and we don't want to be listed on a Chamber of Commerce site. Okay. Black servicemen at the Ethan Allen Air Force Base couldn't get housing. Black new black employees at IBM couldn't find housing. The churches all got together to try to, to try to find them housing. Jericho was repopulated during white flight. Okay, and we established kind of a zoning strategy and an exclusion strategy at that time. That's what we're dealing with.
Right, so how do we, so I guess my question is. How are you gonna help us with that pushback?
Making the
that we're gonna
case.
get?
Making the case. I mean, the first step was, I mean, you guys are somewhat lukewarm on that. So I mean, we'll hopefully encourage you guys. And I feel like the planning commission's ready to move. And, before it was, the planning commission was resisting the idea of making duplexes legal. They came around. Now duplexes are legal. Now let's go for triplexes and, and fourplexes. So I feel like you're saying that 60 people, we need to make sure those 60 people have the arguments to go out and try to persuade people. When I look at the school across the street, 1957, building that elementary school was a war. Okay. The bond failed, the bond passed, the bond failed. There was lawsuits about who could vote, who couldn't vote. It was Doris Marshall and Helen Lawrence and a few other people made that happen. Okay, they led the town. Ultimately, it passed like by 2 or 3 votes. And that's how.
What was that other name besides Helen Lawrence? Because her, I knew she's been a hero.
Marshall.
Doris Marshall.
That's
The road.
Anne Levine's mother.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
good. Yeah,
That was that was leadership. It was the select board member. It was Don Fay. It was, I mean, can't remember if he was actually on the board at that time, but he was a vocal proponent. Arthur Packard was a big leader. The 2 women who were the pastors of the church in Jericho, and there was leadership in the town that emerged. Same thing happened building MMU. I mean, that went down, that went up, that went down. That finally got happened because there was people in town who said, we're going to do this. We're in the face of opposition, it's something we have to do in terms of the town. And that's the kind of leadership that, it's going to take to get something done right now. Yes, if you have the people in the town vote and say, I don't want any more neighbors, I don't want any more else to come in, I want to keep things just the way they are, you could probably win that. And have for 50 years.
Right. And
now the question is, why are you serving? What are you trying to get done?
Right.
Like, what are you trying to get done? I mean, we've been living, our plan has been, we have been living a lie for 50 years. Okay. It was that we are going to build water and sewer in the village center so the little people have a place to live, and the rest of us were going to enjoy this incredible increase in property values in a rural area due to scarcity. But even though that tremendous wealth occurred in that 70%, none of it was, it was like the thought of using it to build water or sewer never occurred. It's like, so now here we are. We've got all these schools in Winooski and Burlington are trying to teach kids English, and we have Spanish immersion, Jericho. I mean, think that through. I mean, it's just plain wrong. So, you're in public life to right wrongs.
Right.
So it's going to take, it's going to be a fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't make it easier for you. I mean, I can't make it easy. I can make it easier. Try to put together, the points of view, but ultimately the select board is responsible for every word in the planning, in the town plan, and the zoning. Okay, so your predecessors, you've approved, continue to approve. There's big hunks of Jericho where it's illegal to make dollhouses for sale. In the 70s, it was like no more home occupations. I mean, there was a woman on Plains Road that had to go to the zoning board of appeals in order to spin yarn in her second floor bedroom.
Yeah, that's certainly not unique to Jericho,
No.
but yeah.
No,
It's changed it.
it's like it's 100,000. It's multiplied by 100,000 times.
Yeah,
in
it's
America.
ubiquitous. This is the same town I grew up in. All the GIs showed up in Levittown like housing, stuck on their extensions, had blue collar jobs. They died, they had $300,000 in the bank. Their father had $100 in the bank when he died. So there was this arc, as you were talking about. I'm gonna work my ass off. I'm gonna increase the equity of my family.
And it
And,
is the most equity.
and
is
now
low.
you can't bend a way without being in the right party and paying somebody off. I won't even mention the town I grew up in, but that's how it is. Zoning precludes every single occupation.
And we consider character, I mean, we consider aesthetics character. Okay. What's happened to the multi-generation families in Jericho? I mean, you guys are doing a pretty good job, your family, but you had to go and you had to come back. You had to go and make a big success of yourself and then come back and you squeeze yourself into into that house. But
He's
we
not
all
squeezing in
remember.
that house.
Well, financially, it was a
Yeah,
squeeze,
yeah.
but we, I remember multi-generational families of children with a variety of incomes. Still able to live in Jericho if they wanted to. And in 2 generations, we've wiped that out.
Yeah, so obviously I am for all of this, and I appreciate that we're gonna have you. Well, assuming we get votes, assuming you get the 3 votes,
Yeah.
that we'll have you to help us combat some of that pushback with education, with, understanding and.
But we also have to have SJ, because
It also doesn't go to a town vote.
No,
I mean, you have, select boards have passed this. It can be recalled. But, you get to.
Right.
You get to make the case and you get to make the, you get to make the call. You can be recalled. But it's gonna take courage. And, the pattern is, I mean, you can do, if you go through and look at who was on the select board and where they lived, you can just see how we ended up where we are in terms of the map. It's a power map. And you're gonna have to.
That was, that's interesting. You should say that. I lived for a long time in a town in Lamoille County. And the power players didn't live in the village as time went on. The power players lived in the 10 and 20 acre McMansion things outside of the village. And the people with the smaller houses and the rentals, they weren't on the select board.
Look at who's been on the select board for the last 30 years.
Yeah,
I've see the same pattern.
I've actually done that.
Are you
But anyway.
the first one from the village center in quite some
Yeah, and the rep from Jericho Corners, right?
in memory.
Anyway, thank you very much.
thank you.
Look forward to your continued advocacy.
I was going to ask SJ, to weigh in, because you have interviewed with the Affordable Housing Committee, correct?
What?
You have already talked to the Affordable Housing Committee and met with
Yeah.
them.
She's nodding.
Yes, Chuck interviewed with us on Tuesday. He was unanimously approved for recommendation to the select board. I can't think of a person in Jericho who has more passionately advocated for housing in Jericho and done so publicly than Chuck. I also know that part of his COVID hobbies have been reading all of the town plans and all of the regulations in Jericho. And so he is a wealth of information and just a real resource for both the committee and the town. And I'm really honored that he felt willing to use his energy and his efforts on the Affordable Housing Committee, that he felt like we were actually doing work to move the needle on this. And I also want to say to I can't remember which one of you asked, but when you're talking to folks who are fearful or who are concerned about what exactly this means, ask them if they've had a hard time employing someone in their local business, or know someone locally who's had a hard time hiring someone to work because they can't find housing. Ask them if they themselves, or if a neighbor has a child who grew up in Jericho and would like to come back and raise their family here and are unable to. Ask them if they've noticed the many personal stories that they've seen on Front Porch Forum of a local Richmond teacher who just got hired,
Right.
who's looking for a place to live.
Yeah.
These
That's-
These are the people who want to move to Jericho, who we want to welcome to Jericho. And these are the people that we're talking about when we're talking about bringing more housing to Jericho. And yeah, I think I'm really thankful that Chuck is willing to join this fight with us, and he can better than anyone I know make the moral argument.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, SJ.
Yeah. And
Thanks, Chuck.
Chuck, because we know you and how passionate you are, all the things that I have done, just to make sure that everybody understands that I've done the same for everybody, so that, it's,
No, that's fine. I don't
Yeah.
expect any.
Yeah.
So with that, I would like to make a motion to appoint Chuck Lacy to the Affordable Housing Committee with the term expiring in 2026.
Second,
all those in favor say aye.
aye.
Thank you, Chuck. for your-
Thank you.
Okay, next is. And Brian, I should ask why you're here.
Brian's gonna join during executive session, I
Okay.
believe.
Excellent, because I wanted to make sure we didn't miss them, on an agenda change or something like that, Yes. But next on the agenda then is a certificate no appeal or suit pending appeal.
So-
Approval.
So this is the signature page for the 2022 grand list. The requirement for signature reads as thus. We hereby certify that on this date, no earlier than the first Tuesday of February following the lodging of the grand list, there are no appeals pending from the action of the listers nor suits to recover taxes paid under protest under the provisions of 32 VSA section 4157. From this date, when offered in evidence in any court in this state, this list shall be received as a legal grand list, and its validity shall not be put in issue by any party to any action in any hearing or trial in any court. And it's been signed by Lori Dekema, our town lister, Martha Prince, our new lister's assistant, and awaits only the signature of our select board.
And so we should have a motion to approve.
Do we have a motion, or do we just need to sign something?
Well, it says approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the certificate of no appeal or suit pending.
Second,
All those in favor say aye.
aye.
I would- All right, select board updates.
Can I do the big
You
update?
can-
Yeah,
Take it away,
I
Eric.
believe Chuck left for this. So I would like to announce that the town of Jericho, on behalf of the select board, has purchased a piece of property at 2 Railroad Circle, which has a dwelling, it has a barn, and it has, gosh, I forget the acreage, but I'm going to say somewhere around 2.5 acres in quarter-acre zoning. The plan will be to work with the Jericho Community Development Corporation to figure out a way to bring affordable housing in, most likely partnering with something like Champlain Housing Trust or something, or an organization like that. But we're very excited to start to take some actions to help with the thing we just got done talking with Chuck about. So
I think it's great. That is like the big news.
that is the big news.
I
mean, it's
We
really-
closed yesterday.
We did.
Closed yesterday. So
And the
Wonderful.
keys were dropped off this afternoon, to make it official.
awesome.
Wow.
Got the handshake from the realtor.
Nice.
And I guess we should mention how it was purchased.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and it was purchased from our ARPA funds, which the town already has received. We have a certain timeline in which we have to spend them, so.
And
Do I say the purchase price?
it's up,
And
you can, but
public record.
Yeah, it is public record now, it's true, because
Okay.
it will be listed.
The purchase price was $380,000.
And the key is, and all the surveys that we have done with how to spend our ARPA funding, affordable housing was the number one. From when it was the more restricted ways you could spend money to the more flexible ways to spend money, where we drilled down to more detail, and affordable housing was number one. And so
I just wanted to see how.
the select board was able to take concrete action when this came on the market, because it was only on the market. What was it, 3 days?
Oh, another thing I wanted to ask, or to mention for the public record regarding that property. Somehow the sellers became aware that the town was interested in purchasing the property before the town knew it was interested in purchasing the property, because news travels quick around these parts. And through whatever, typical small town news network, this actual sellers bypassing their realtor and our realtor got in touch with me, who the select board had designated to be working with this purchase. And they specifically said that they were very interested in this property becoming, being used for affordable housing, and that's what, their parents, who had since passed, would have wanted. So, I just wanted to add that was also, a good thing on their end too, is that they were very happy to see that that's what the intent was. And I couldn't sign anything because there was nothing to sign, but I had to give the seller my word that that is 100% our intent. And so I don't know if we got a good deal because of that, but we certainly got selected because of that. So
That's terrific.
it was very, very nice of the sellers to not just go after the highest bidder and to have that. So
That, I mean, that has occupied a lot of time. That's for sure. I mean, that is terrific.
I hesitate to do this, but I've been advised that I should say I reviewed the conflict of interest policy of the town in Jericho. Do not consider my participation in this transaction to be a conflict of interest, but I just wanted that to be on the public record.
Thank you. Good. That's good. I think it's just a very exciting thing happening, I mean,
Permanent, affordable
Housing.
housing.
and it's transformative.
and that's exactly what the point of ARPA was, the biggest verb that I heard, right, is or adjective, excuse me. The
Yeah.
biggest adjective I heard. And that fund was transformative.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's because it's a one-shot deal that, municipalities never got before. And, so you really want to make it transformative. I can't remember what I did.
So not to rain on our parade, but our first tax bill is gonna be due in March.
That's right.
Do we have
We
the
got
funds to
that
cover
notice
that?
today.
Don't be late, or else it
Yes,
goes up.
I know.
You got the interest penalty there.
Our tax collector doesn't have to go very far to break my kneecaps.
But there's a number I was looking for. 25%. We've spent 25% of the ARPA money. We got 75% more to go.
Okay.
Outstanding.
Outstanding is great. That's fabulous. Yeah, the only thing I want to mention is that the next Wednesday is the Twist the Ground documentary. And I've let transition towns know, and I think the Conservation Commission is being notified too, that since it talks about ways to mitigate climate change through putting carbon back into the soil.
That's the Deborah Rawson.
Deborah Rawson at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, the 22nd. And one of our members who has been a soil scientist is going to help lead the discussion after the documentary. And then Vermonter, who we Seth Iskan, who has started Soil for Climate, and has worked with the Maasai tribesmen and everything else in Africa and done this across the world. We had hoped to get him, but that he needed, we couldn't guarantee it 25 people at that time because it's the middle of winter, you never know. But we're working to have him come during Earth Week because there'll be another person going to talk about water quality during Earth Week at the community center. So we're thinking of doing something at the community center with Seth and talking about soil and climate change and how it can help mitigate. So that's pretty exciting stuff because this guy is internationally known, but actually lives in Vermont. So just like the movie in March, it's a National Geographic author and wildlife photographer, and he happens to live in Bristol. He's going to talk about those polar bears at the Deborah Rawson in March.
It's not polar bears in Bristol. I was
No.
gonna say, what?
Polar bears, no, he's been up in
Churchill, Manitoba, or wherever you go
Yeah,
to see those, yeah.
and talked about their life, with climate change and stuff, and that's going to be the discussion with photographs and stuff in March. So we got all kinds of activity happening at the Energy Task Force.
Including a mountain lion on Bentley Lane.
Oh, I saw that. I'm sorry. Sue Morse is going to have a heart attack over that one. Because she will tell them it most likely was a bobcat.
Yeah.
Somebody posted an article on like Yankee magazine. I don't know, anyway, she was interviewed as part of that article. It was about mountain lions. This guy, like, do they exist in New England or don't they, or
Yeah.
whatever? And she was, I mean, I know she's been into that for a long time. But
Yeah.
she was interviewed as part of it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so but clearly
We can only hope they're
Yeah.
coming back, because when I think of that sorry looking beast in the museum in Montpelier in that case.
Oh, that's right.
The fur is falling off of it, and it's like,
Yeah, that's right.
you know which one I mean?
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Oh, it's so
Poor
sad.
thing.
Sue's comment was, if you think that they're not coming back, you're wrong.
There's the-
When, who knows? But
But yeah, I mean, if we continue to do the right things and make sure you have those wildlife corridors and forest block connectivity, which the state is also encouraging at this point too. That's why the focus is working on the village centers.
You've got to, the $64,000 question is, if we're going to increase our housing stock, no matter what town you live in.
No.
We got to do that at the same time that we preserve
Yep.
blocks for critters to be able to eke out some kind of existence over the next 50 years. So how you put those two things together is.
And the
gonna be
state is
really-
working very hard.
How you put them together is like what you were just saying.
Yeah.
Village centers is where you,
And the state is really working hard on that with there was a special meeting of the executive committee, the RPC last night. And one of the things we talked about was the housing bill, because they've decided not to work on Act 250 this year but they really want to work on the housing bill. And they're talking about, how do you balance telling the municipalities that this is what they're going to do? And where, what kind of, they're going to push back. But they're talking about increasing the density to 5 units per acre. In the village, particularly, but the caveat is in areas where you have water and sewer.
oh, sure,
So,
that's a
But-
limiting factor, no matter what the rest of the
Exactly.
regulations say.
and then the other one is that they are going to exempt areas that are, they want to push more multiplexes for the same reason, but they would not be pushed in areas that are, as you said, wildlife, that need to be preserved, and they talk about natural resource districts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of moving parts on these two housing bills, because they're slightly different from the Senate and the House. And eventually they're going to be in committee, but a lot of this has to come before crossover.
Oh, yeah.
So they're working hard, but so a lot of things are moving on the housing bill, but that was the biggie last night that we needed to talk about, as well as some other things, but. So it was Jet Force and these climate things and what's happening in the housing bill. Basically is where I've been.
Well, we already know that Eric's been very busy, but I will tell you that my work, I think you've received some of these, at least I've sent them to John, was trying to organize some of our ARPA efforts. Hasn't gotten select board approval, but I had a couple drafts. I put together a timeline. I tried to aggregate all the requests that we've gotten, both
Some were only some we didn't get, they only went to Underhill.
Right, which is a little odd, but it's okay. We're sisters, Underhill and us and this whole thing. And just today I sent to John just sort of the beginnings of a PowerPoint, either if we want to review this stuff at town meeting, if people want an update. If not, we probably should do this right after town meeting. But
I
if
think
you
it's a
could
good
just
idea.
check these, the one thing I wanted to call your attention to, I called it to John's, this ARPA fund, there's 4 bullets about approved uses. And I got this from an old VLCT document, and I think it's what's permittable is a little broader than that list.
Oh, absolutely.
So we'll probably have to tweak this language.
Because that was the very first federal guidelines. the rules
Yeah,
that
that's
came
what I
out.
thought. when it was-
And then once they came out and said that anybody who got less than $10 million could pretty much do, I mean, these are still, they still want you to focus on these kind of issues, but it was much more flexible.
So if you see any of those, Catherine or Eric or John or Paula,
Oh, yeah.
and you could just send the comments, I can
Okay.
amend these. The timeline, I tried to do the best that I can. It's a little clunky. And
And I also will tell you that they haven't talked about changing the deadline for having the money committed, but it's most likely that they will extend the
right,
project work completed date.
yeah, I know you've said that a couple times. The only other thing I'd ask for your, I have to say, there's a list of who we've gotten submittals from besides town agencies.
Oh, I see, yeah.
And then select board establishes selection criteria, which is slide 7 or something. I have to say here publicly with cable running, this is largely from Underhill. I just took their cue. They seem to have it organized. We can make it our own, but I just
Yeah,
thought it was a place to start.
and then what's interesting is how Underhill, they spent money, the town spent money first on town items, including that beach and things like that. And then they did not establish an ARPA committee until the end of last year.
Right,
And so they only had a certain timeline to get, people they said, hey, we got this much left to spend, what's your ideas? And then the people who wanted it filled in the criteria and
Yeah.
stuff, and the committee is going to vote on it and then send it to the select board. And I guess they had by the end of it was 42 different ideas.
wow, that's a lot of ideas.
Yeah, I think that's what Bill Frank was saying. It's something
So
like that.
then this next slide, SP, Select Board ARPA activity, infrastructure. I didn't think we were using ARPA money for the present studies. I just stuck it in there. So that
No,
probably has to
no.
be corrected.
No, in fact, that's what VLCT suggested you not do, because the state has money for this.
Yeah,
And they suggest, using your ARPA funding for stuff that there is no other grant kind of funding available for. And then what you start doing is piggybacking and stacking grants.
right.
Uh,
And then the last thing, and this was a bit of an epiphany, this next steps on the last slide.
oh,
Number
yeah.
3, people submitted ideas. I know the Housing Committee and the Planning Commission, but none of them have numbers or specific proposals. So if there's any of that we are more interested in, we're going to need to get some figures. Either we're going to have to develop them,
Right.
we
ourselves.
being John and the staff,
Right.
or the 2 committees will have to say, well, if you want to do this, you're going to need to do this, this, and this, and it's going to cost us $45,000.
Right.
Rather than, hey, what about this great idea?
Yeah.
So, given there's a time constraint, once we decide what those interesting ideas were that maybe the Affordable Housing Committee put together, start a land trust or housing fund or whatever,
Or
then
buy
we need to,
property.
or by proper, then we need to put some numbers to that.
Land banking.
So this was really clarifying to me, and I hope you'll,
Well, and some
will
of
be
the
for
stuff
you.
we've already talked about spending, because as you said, the approved uses, the very first ones. Was, for offsetting stuff, and that included for towns to update their IT and their cybersecurity.
right,
And we had to replace the server and all those things. And I think that.
That's true. That should be added to that list
Yeah,
because in fact,
that
we
was
took
about
action on that.
$30,000 that, that actually had to be spent. And now we have to think about how we're gonna pay for a new furnace for the garage.
Yeah.
SJ has her hand up.
SJ,
Oh, hey, SJ.
You're muted.
Hi,
There you
sorry, there's two of us here asking a question. My understanding was if you chose the revenue loss option, that you were no longer tied to any of the specific funding constraints.
Correct.
And that extended to the timeline as well, that this was just
the
money in your bank
timeline-
and you can use it
the
whenever,
timeline was
however.
not, I'm sorry, the timeline was not changed. There's, everybody expects it to be changed, but it has not been changed.
Okay.
Flexibility was allowed. And we did the revenue option. So, I mean, but it's. Nobody's gonna worry about it until November of 2026.
Yeah. Thank you for that, SJ, though, because this
Got it,
is a
thank you.
draft, it's a work in progress, but
Yeah.
we want to be able to report to people a little more specifically. So thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's clear to do it that way.
Okay, that's all I had.
Yeah, I mean, because
Did you send us, do we have this?
I sent it
Yeah,
to John.
I sent it to you.
I saw the
via-
other two documents that you had. Okay.
I sent a invitation to the Google Doc that Wayne had forwarded to your
Oh,
email.
I
didn't see
hate
that.
I've decided I hate Google Docs.
I told it. Now, we want it rehire on the record. Do you just have an iPad or do you have an actual computer?
I have an iMac, I have an iPad, I have an iPhone. They talk to each other,
Okay.
but I.
Because I've never seen you at a keyboard at a Zoom meeting. You're always like with the thing here, so.
Yeah. Well, that's because sometimes the computer says, I'm gonna take 3 hours to load Zoom or something like that.
That's the thing about those whatever, they work great as long as you use only Apple products.
Right.
Right.
It's fantastic.
Right.
Yeah. And what happens is I use my iPad because I can sit in my chair then. Especially these days, my chair is nice. But so what happens was the first time I tried to enter it, it said, this is not, you are not authorized to do so. I went, well, that's not, I thought I was allowed to. So then they kicked me to say, okay, you have to do this. And so I put in my email, and that was a real fight because my husband at one time used Google Docs because of the library. And now all of a sudden Google Docs shows up and says, William McMains. Ooh. So I finally get my email in there and it says password. I put my password in for Google. Thinking that may be the right one. I don't know. It probably wasn't. It said, nope, you don't get to go in. And then another time I tried it and I hit open and it opened to a beautiful black screen with open in the middle.
Yeah.
And I went, that's it, I'm done.
Maybe it's something to do with Bentley Lane because your neighbor has very similar challenges with Google Docs. I'll get a share from Bill and then I can't open it if it's from him, but somehow she gets it from her and then I can open it. So I don't know what's going on.
Could be a mountain lion chewing on the wire.
That's exactly right.
So I had mentioned in regard to this, I'd mentioned to John about maybe having an LCD projector at town meeting so that we could
Oh, so
we could put up the budget if we want to, so not everybody is, I know we were resistant to do that. Or if at the end of all the rest of business, somebody says, what's going on with that ARPA money? We could pull this up if we had to, or the JPC's, their PowerPoint, which was just really great. The one that Susan and the crew
That was
did.
a terrific cover.
Not that we're planning on doing that, but if not this year, we really ought to kick ourselves in the rear and move this to the next level of electronic delivery before the audience, because up to now, everyone comes with their book
And but that's why,
So like by next level, you mean like graduate to like, maybe like 1993?
Sure.
Something like that.
Commodore 64 kind of level, you know?
this is why the New York Times came to our last meeting before COVID shut us down, is because, people were sitting there with their books and the knitting and everything.
It's just something to consider. So if we don't end up talking about, or if we do talk, this will help organize our discussion
Right.
or response to the public. And if not, then maybe at a meeting right after town
Yeah.
meeting, we can
Because
actually run this on the cable screen and people could see it at home.
Right, because that's the
It's the important thing.
uh,
So,
reorg meeting anyway. So
Right.
that's a good time to talk about this stuff. But people may be interested for other business that's not proper. I mean, because that's a thing. Now, John, on signing this, we're talking about this side.
Yeah, I don't know that it matters, but maybe for clarity's sake, if you all
No.
signed in that left column.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That would
I'm gonna put my
help.
glasses on.
So I
Well,
can,
the pointers were on the right side.
I know,
yeah,
So I
But there's
signed on the
only-
right side.
but there's only two. Oh, you did right there. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll do that then.
Okay.
Why not? I didn't realize that you had signed of it, because I was looking at all this blank.
It
and-
probably does make sense, you're right, now that I see it, but I just do what I'm told, it said sign here.
Yeah,
so let me, I can give you a few updates, and I can start with while we're on the topic of educating the public, at town meeting, it bears mentioning for, anyone who's interested that at our next select board meeting on, March 2nd, the select board will be reviewing, the budget, once more for the public. And there'll be an outline of articles to be voted on as well. So that'll be that'll be a final
Yeah, you have to-
opportunity,
You have to do one of those kind of meetings within, what is it,
10 days.
10 days of your town meeting.
So
It's
how
an
come we had to do
informa-
The last one.
it's an information meeting.
Because we had to vote
Correct.
to accept the budget and put it on the warning.
The budget can't be changed. It's just strictly an information meeting.
Yep.
Yep, so that'll be happening. On the topic of furnace replacements, I think everyone's gotten kind of up to speed on the goings on a couple weekends back. So the big furnace failed. Adam fortunately had Todd Fisher, who he knows from work with Underhill Jericho Fire Department, came in, did some repair to kind of limp it along. In the meantime, until that was able to happen, they were using the small furnace, so they were able to get the shop up to a balmy 51 degrees. And fact remains that the primary furnace is in need of replacement. We have 3 contractors in the process of providing bids. J Mechanical, Chucks, who do a lot of work here on the heating and cooling in town hall, and Todd Fisher in his business. So we should have.
Now, are all these fossil fuel?
No, propane,
Probably.
yes.
That's even more expensive though.
That's a fossil fuel.
Well, yes, I should say, yes, it's a fossil fuel.
And it's more expensive than fuel oil. even.
Yeah.
And-
Depends
Oh, I
on
don't
the
think
day.
that's currently the case, though.
Oh, yeah,
I think.
Oh, yeah, it has been for years.
I think propane's about as the most expensive.
It is the most expensive.
Oh.
That's what people living in single wides they get screwed because they're
Yep.
using propane.
That is,
I'd rather.
And
eat a
so
single
I-
wide than-
Well, I'm putting my Jericho.
Where you are now?
I put my Jericho Energy Task Force hat on, and I said to Adam, please look into let's see, Renewable Energy Resource Center. Depending on the size of the garage, and I don't know the square footage, but there is money available to do advanced wood heating systems.
like a wood-fired boiler.
Or will pellet.
Huh.
And then you have these big these funky containers outside that, look like, you put chicken feed in, but it's their.
So they would load them with like a bucket loader. So it's. not-
Well, actually, I think these fancy advanced systems, it's automatic.
Yeah.
Everything's
They
automatic.
had a program for that for schools 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah. And that's why some of the schools switched.
Well, are there any incentives by any utility companies? Do it this way, get a heat pump and we'll pay for half of it or
Natural
whatever.
gas, probably, to be honest, that.
You don't get natural gas there.
Into it, I haven't had any active hand in
Yeah, because the
soliciting
efficiency,
vendors.
efficiency Vermont, I mean, I think you should think about heat pump for the office because the heat pump will work there. Because they already said that they couldn't do the big garage, but they do have incentives for the heat pumps. And they have incentives for these wood. Now, if it's larger than 5,000 square feet, then you go directly to Efficiency Vermont for the advanced wood heating systems. Because they can work with commercial, much larger things and have also incentives, and the state is putting money into this stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, we absolutely have to look into any incentives.
Yeah, and some of
If
these.
they're tiny
incentives-
petty incentives, that's a different deal, but if we're
some
gonna
of
get
these
a
are like
good chunk of money.
50% To get you to ship.
I know Adam's gonna be disappointed to hear that, but we're obliged to make the dollar stretch as long as we can, even if it's gonna be ARPA money.
Yeah, it's still, it's still somebody's taxpayer money. Yeah, at one point or another, I mean, so,
yeah, I can connect with them on that and see what, if any, incentive programs have been.
Or call VLCT and see what incentives they have for municipalities too,
Sure.
or
rather than just rely on Adam, because I know he's kind of
Efficiency
busy.
Vermont, not VLCT.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I'm just VLCT is just sort of the default.
Yeah.
Help.
They may have
That's
some
right.
ideas.
But it is important to look into this because even if you've got 5 to 10 years down the road, there's no reason why a furnace couldn't move.
Right, I was thinking that, thank you for saying that, because if it turns out we have a new garage in 10
That's what I was
years,
wondering, too. I was thinking about that too, like, could we get one that will last out
Yeah,
loud?
we're gonna need to be on casters.
Adam and I had a conversation, excuse me. Yeah, he's thinking about the transportability and the ability to swap it out into a new building if possible. Yeah.
Well, that's good. At least thinking about that.
That's great.
Yeah, while we're on the topic of fuel, Linda and I had a meeting yesterday with representatives from Vermont Gas to discuss the pipeline main that's going to be put in along Packard Road this summer. So they're going to be working to connect the existing main on Packard all the way down to Brown's Trace,
Wow.
across the road, across Brown's Trace to Morgan Road. And then
Is it
they wanna
guard?
they want to take the main down to in the vicinity of the entrance to 40th and Allen.
Wow, that's a
Provide-
long line. That's
Yeah.
terrific. That opens it up for whole kinds of people along the way to go
Sure
natural
does.
gas.
So everybody along that Packard Road corridor, everyone along that Morgan Road corridor. And we talked about putting together information that we can provide via the jointed Jericho site. So we'll have a tile that'll outline the installation schedule, the diagrammatics for where it's going to go, so people can use that as reference. And they agreed to have a representative available to do an informational session for interested neighbors sometime looking to April. I think they're hoping to start probably late April. They have to wait until all the roads are no longer posted because they've got some big vehicles they need to have on site for the construction.
Yeah, it's good you posted the roads. No
And
question about
even
it.
best, the managing technology specialist for doing the installation, his name is Spanky Banky.
Oh, my goodness.
Spanky Banky.
Spanky
Oh, that's-
Banky is in control.
That's
We're in good
terrific.
hands.
Well, it's also, speaking of, posting the roads, I mean, that was got to be one of the earliest we've ever had to post the roads and.
Yeah. Mid-February.
Yeah,
Yeah, Underhill, we've been communicating amongst town manager administrators.
So is that gonna be able to go to the high school?
Yeah,
Because they're not on natural gas now, are they?
I wouldn't imagine.
I thought,
No, they have a.
wasn't that one
they
of
have
the
a
wood?
They have a
Yeah.
wood-fired,
Yeah.
they have a wood-fired furnace.
Well, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Bernie has his hand up, by the way.
Oh, hey Bernie.
Thank you. What's the building that we're talking about that needs the furnace?
Town garage.
And do you know how many square feet it is?
I don't offhand.
No, I think it's got 5 bays, big enough for a dump truck each, whatever that means.
I feel like it's the cubic feet more, almost more than the.
Yeah, that's true.
Square feet, yeah.
Right.
But I don't know the size of it, but in case it wasn't clear, on that super cold night, we lost the furnace went down and it's on its last leg. So like John was saying, they're limping it along and
It's
kind of
very old.
starting to think about what a replacement looks like.
Oh, they
And
also.
I- I was just curious if the Energy Task Force had weighed in any recommendations.
Well, I just, advocating, depending on the size, for an advanced wood heating, system, because that's considered renewable and there's incentives. And then the small, office, space would be, heat pumps.
Right, okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, so
We need to
talked
be
about-
careful we don't slow the process down of replacing that boiler
Oh, that's true.
by studying it to death.
Yeah. we're
Let's
gonna
not
try
do
to-
that.
Yeah, we'll try to.
I mean,
move.
I think Catherine expressed the sentiment of many of us that if there are incentives to do something greener, we want to do that. But we can't be getting involved with committees weighing in, and now we're 3 years out. 3 months out, and the boiler still hasn't been looked at. That's just not going to work.
So if it limps a little, they're hoping to,
If they can
do-
limp through the season, that's great.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they can.
Right.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
But also, nobody knows how quickly you can replace these things too, but I guess with propane you can, because more and more people are not doing propane.
All right, so we talked about posting the town roads. Jericho newsletter, I believe. Sabina is close to having the first edition of the townwide newsletter ready for posting on the website. I think she's looking to do it over the weekend.
Well, that's exciting.
There's been.
Thank you, Sabina.
Yeah,
number of
absolutely.
Contributions. I'm actually in arrears. I need to get her photos from our first annual town committee potluck that we had in the end of January, and a little narrative description. Moving along to the communication union district effort. Angeliki has agreed to be the alternate representative to the Chittenden County.
Oh, that's great.
The Chittenden County Communication District and
What's the U stand for?
Union.
Union.
Oh, okay.
I was stumbling.
Thinking of cow and a
What's
cud.
the U? Yes,
That's right.
we
That's
have.
a good one.
We have our next meeting, next week. She is not gonna be. Able to be available, and I think I'm gonna go as much as I can, and if I'm unable to, then we'll have. Representation. She'll be joining to get your approval and confirmation, looking to. Our meeting on, I think she can be here March 2nd. We may not be able to confirm her. Until the meeting on the 16th.
Well, that was a quick turnaround though on the grant application and the funding.
Yeah. It was. And yeah, we're in good shape. I be interested to see what the process is going to be for hiring the executive director and staffing up the organization.
Yeah, 'cause-
Sabina's got her hand up.
Oh, hey, Sabina's on. Hey, Sabina.
Hi, just with the newsletter, I just wanted to let you know, this would be the third one that's gone out.
Oh, really?
And which I guess begs the question, if you guys aren't getting it, then you're probably not registered on Join in Jericho.
I
So
am registered. but-
I know I'm registered under a now defunct email account, and I have to be honest, I didn't even dawn on me that I would
Yeah,
have to
I'm
re-register,
registered.
but I will.
I am too.
I thought I was, but I
it-
guess not.
It would come from Town of Jericho.
Yeah.
And if you want to look back, I mailed the last one out on the first Sunday of February. So my plan is to do it every 2 weeks for now. So that would have been February 5th. And this next one is coming out on the 18th or whatever this, I don't know the date. Can't be.
Don't
the
I
18th.
have egg on my face? Sorry for,
No,
sorry
no
for
worries.
mixing
No,
your
no
up.
worries.
It's been an
I'm not
ongoing
trying to,
effort.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I just wanted to
No.
clarify, but I do have, I can share the good news is that, at least from my end, I sent it out to, I think, almost 800 people, that are subscribers. And we had about a 70% open rate, which I think is pretty admirable.
huge.
So, yeah.
That is-
So I think with time, we'll build momentum and get people used to looking at the website and things like that. So it's coming along slowly but surely. So look for the next edition on Sunday.
Well, that's another thing to mention at town meeting then, is to, encourage people to sign up for joining Jericho because of,
Right.
there's much more information on the website and the newsletter and things like that.
Yeah,
So,
and Jessica and I are working a little bit on that. We have some little projects planned to kind of drum up interest and
Great.
yeah. What were you gonna say, John?
Oh, no, I was gonna, that's what I was gonna ask is through what avenue would it be best to communicate about the newsletter during town meeting? Obviously, there's gonna be a lot of people tabling.
Yeah.
Maybe we can make an announcement or have the select board make an open announcement to attendees.
Because there's that end part, other business as thought appropriate or something like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that we were floating was maybe having a laptop there if people wanted to sign up. Or,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
just signage or things along those lines. But yeah, Jessica and I are communicating regularly on ways to encourage people.
And Phil
That's
Newbeck,
terrific.
Phil Newbeck has offered to do a showcase, either a Jericho resident or a staff member in the newsletters she's doing that on a monthly basis, correct, Sabina?
Yes, that is correct. She's doing about one a month, and I think the consensus was to keep the pool of interviewees to volunteers, committee volunteers and staff members for now.
Right,
That's terrific.
try to take a deeper dive on.
So the
influence.
the first month was Linda Blash. So
Oh,
you can
good.
read her profile on Joining Jericho.
The next one's gonna be Roger Miller
Oh,
from the
right.
road crew.
That'll be good.
That's a good one.
That'll be great, and yeah, I don't know who else is in the pipeline, but I think it's a great opportunity. I was just gonna quickly report out.
Bert Lindholm would be pretty interesting too.
Yeah,
tell you.
there's an idea, Bert Lindholm, Sabina, we can recommend that to Bill. Brian Stevens, something like that, maybe on the near horizon.
Rather than throw it out.
But you're right, considering how long Bert Lindholm has been active in the community and all
Gosh,
kinds of
yeah.
different
When he was
ways.
at that thing the other night, weeks back,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, he knows the scoop on everything.
Yeah,
He really does. He's seen it all. He's been,
God, he must be.
It's amazing.
And he's
right
got a
in his
great
late 80s
vantage.
now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
His perch is high.
absolutely.
So attended the meeting, the CCRPC meeting for the Emergency Management Committee yesterday. And a couple of neat things grew out of that. One was a report out from the December 23rd storm. Max Kennedy, who's sort of a public communications person for Vermont Emergency Management, sort of walk through what the local responses were, what the impacts were. No recording of people having to use or access warming shelters or National Guard sites that were put in place.
Oh, that's good.
But I think as I reported out recently, we're gonna I'm hoping to convene folks at the range and John Alberghini, the school principals, Matt Champlin and Andy Forsberg, so we can revisit the local emergency management plan and
Yeah, and I'm still advocating that we
think
have a
about
site
next
where
time.
people can come with their pets if they have to.
all right, pet friendly locating.
Yeah.
They also have this cool dashboard that's the Vermont Tier 2 hazmat dashboard, which is basically a web-based platform that firefighters, emergency management folks can use to review structures they're going into. So municipalities report out what structures may have harmful chemicals
Wow.
or explosive materials. So they know in advance before they go in, they can locate it using an iPad or an iPhone or a smartphone of any sort. They'll know in advance what they're potentially up against. Pretty powerful. And I think that's about it. Tom Barabo's been reaching out about Green Up Day. We're trying to get details put in place for location for any of the garbage pickup that happens at the town garage.
Oh, that's good.
If you recall, we asked somebody to work a couple hours that day.
We did. And I think Adam's available for that. I think it's some towns have I don't know who does it, but some towns have roadside collection. I think that's probably overly onerous. I think we can ask volunteers to bring whatever they
Yeah, so in
find
fact,
on
'cause
the
it would be,
roadside and deliver it.
it would be good to make people aware that they need to do that, because sometimes we see the bags left at the side of the road, because they think we have roadside pickup, just like Williston might or something.
Yeah.
And we don't.
And did we at one time?
No,
Okay, because
Part of-
we've never had that.
I mean, when Bill had his pickup truck, he would drive around and pick up garbage, from our
Right.
area, but.
Yeah.
But
So we'll try to get the word.
we haven't had a truck like that in years. It fell apart. It ran it to the ground.
Mine, I've got one just like that. It's slowly going downhill and I'm gonna hold on as long as I can.
That's right.
Just use it on weekends.
That's right. I do have one more announcement. The Art reminded me, I think, because I don't think I've mentioned it before. But Sunday, March 19th from 2 to 4 p.m., we're actually going to have an artist reception for this exhibition.
Great.
So that's good. So if we've taken care of updates and other business, we'll do the warrants. We have the minutes of 2/2/23. And I have just one little one on line 23. It's would like to board, which is would like the board.
Yep.
And then the other one is on 287. Eric Johnson moved to exit executive session. Wayne Howe seconded. Motion passed 3-0 at 9:10 p.m. No action taken. Wayne Howe motion to adjourn executive, Eric Johnson second. Motion passed 3-0 at 9:11 p.m.
So are you saying Tom's in charge of Green Up Day? Did you say that, John?
Yeah, Jessica, I believe, is trying to hand over the torch of responsibility and organization to Tom and the
Okay.
conservation.
Oh, that's good.
Well, maybe I'll get in touch with him because I don't know if he's gonna have a breakfast or eat. And also
Fine.
he's cooking pancakes. Maybe I'll just email him and see what's up.
Oh, yeah, because the community center folks, I think, put on the breakfast and they all used to request $250 or something like that from the town.
Yeah, I'd
Catherine,
love
sorry,
that.
could I just ask you to repeat? So line 279 and 80.
287 and through 12, however many it takes. But Eric Johnson moved to exit executive session. Wayne Howe second. Motion
Okay.
passed 3-0 at 9:10 p.m. No action taken. And then Wayne Howe motion to adjourn. Eric Johnson, second. Motion passed 3-0 at 9:11 PM.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of February 2nd, 23 as amended.
Second,
All those in favor say aye.
aye.
And,
We have,
yeah, do we have any executive? session?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
so I'll
Yeah.
make a motion to go into executive session for legal. Legal matters?
Yes, legal matters.
For
No
legal
personnel.
matters, because premature disclosure of the information would be detrimental to parties involved.
Are you inviting anyone to this meeting?
And I would like to invite Brian Stevens to this meeting.
Second,
all those in favor say aye.
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 Good night, everybody.
good
Good
night.
night,
Thanks,
all.
everybody.
Thank you for coming.